Hey guys, and welcome to the newest segment of the Zelda Dungeon podcast, and that is Masis's Hot Seat Discussion. It's not exactly the most exciting name, so I want you guys to come up with your own name for my new segment. Basically, each podcast I'll have a special guest in the hot seat, and we will be talking about a particular topic. So, this month for the hot seat discussion, we have fellow staff member Josh. How are you doing today, Josh?
Pretty good.
Okay, and one of the hot topics, we've been getting a lot of visitors at the site, a lot of comments. Ocarina of Time 3D, scheduled for release mid-June, and just about a month ago, I actually got a chance to play the game. I got flown out to San Francisco, the Nintendo of America. I met with Nintendo of America, and I got my hands-on. And we've seen other hands-on impressions from E3 and other sources. So this segment is going to be dedicated to Ocarina of Time 3D. So the first topic. Ocarina of Time as a handheld game. There's always been this difference between the type of Zelda game that appears on a home console and the type of game that fits on a handheld. And at times it seems the handheld titles are sort of not taken as seriously as some of the console titles. So Josh, do you think a game like Ocarina of Time, does it work on a handheld title?
I think Ocarina of Time works as a handheld simply because it was already a console game. What I tend to see in handheld games is that they are portable, and since they are, they can be taken anywhere, and we can play them at any time. That's always one of the problems that I've had with Ocarina of Time. I could never just pick it up and play it whenever I wanted to. With the 3DS, though, I can now play it anywhere, and I think that's simply why it works. It's been specifically made for a console system, but now it can be taken wherever.
Right, and part of the reason that it can be taken wherever, well, one of the biggest draws for the Nintendo 3DS is the 3D effect, and you can't get that on a home console. So this remake, since it's a 3D remake, makes sense for the 3DS, obviously. And I want to talk about the 3D effect. Do you think it's necessary? Is it a nice added bonus, or do you think this whole 3D thing is just a gimmick and it's following suit with the whole 3D craze?
Well, from what I've seen, most companies have really been delving into two areas lately, motion controls and 3D. Obviously, Nintendo has the Wii for motion controls, and to get in with the crowd, they needed to make the 3DS for the 3D effect. I don't think it's really gimmicky at all, though. It's a nice feature whether you use it or not. The problem I see happening is there's going to be two separate groups of people, the ones who never have it on and prefer to play it in its regular 2D mode like the old days, or the people who want to try out the new 3D and see it from a new perspective. I feel the 3D bonus and who uses it is really going to depend on who you are and if you care to make use of it.
Right, I've actually, since I've been able to play the game, I actually play the game mostly with the 3D effect on, but very minimally. I actually have trouble when I have it on full effect. I really have to get zoned in on it, and I can't really appreciate it because every time I look away or I glance down to read text, I sort of lose that sweet spot. However, I do think the game looks so much better with the 3D effect on, but not quite on full blast. Luckily, we have a slider so we can adjust how much 3D we are getting. But whether you're playing with 3D or no 3D, the game looks different than its Nintendo 64 counterpart, and it sort of has a new graphical style, and it follows more closely with that of the official artwork. At least that's what the Nintendo of America representatives had told me. And it's much more lively and brighter. And Josh, what are your overall thoughts? What are your overall thoughts on the new visuals and the new graphics for the 3D version?
I think the visuals are great. From the various screenshots, video, and trailers that I've seen on the internet and my own 3DS, the game looks much livelier than in the N64. On the N64, the game always seemed so dark. Even in the bright of day, it always lacked a little bit of color and brightness. But here they really brought it out to give you something much more colorful and brighter to look at.
Yeah, and one thing to point out that they didn't just add like new colors to it. The backgrounds are completely redone. Like for example, every time you're in a house or in a shop, there's new props on the sides. There's completely new visuals, so many new added things. And actually, a lot of the new added things in the stores and shops and houses, it makes for a lot of new Easter eggs in the 3D version. So it's definitely something to look forward to. And I also do think that the graphics, it's going to be hard to go back to the Nintendo 64 version after playing the 3DS version. But enough about the graphics for now. One of the many new features, or well, not really a new feature, we'll get into that, is the Master Quest. And the Master Quest was originally released as a free giveaway for fans who pre-ordered the Wind Waker on the Nintendo GameCube. And the Master Quest, it's basically the same game, but the dungeons have sort of been rearranged. It has more enemies, harder enemy combinations in small rooms. And so overall, before even getting into the 3DS changes, Josh, have you played the Master Quest back on the GameCube, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I was one of those people who pre-ordered the Wind Waker, and that Master Quest disc is still sitting somewhere in my room. I've played through the first few dungeons of the game, but I have no means gotten anywhere close to beating it. From what I have played, the game is definitely a lot harder than the original, and the new dungeon designs and layouts make it even more difficult in most cases. I think it's a great job by Nintendo in trying to appeal to those more experienced players out there who have beaten the original plenty of times and really want a challenge.
I agree with that. I actually played the Master Quest, but I too didn't complete it on the GameCube, and it was significantly harder, the dungeons for sure. However, there's even some more changes in the Ocarina of Time 3DS version to differentiate the Master Quest now from what it was like 6, 7 years ago when it came out. And one of the changes is the Master Quest is now completely mirrored. This is very similar to what Twilight Princess was from the GameCube to the Nintendo Wii. Left is now right, right is now left. Link is now right-handed in the Master Quest, and it really takes you out of your comfort zone of familiarity. And additionally, another one of the changes is all of the enemies in the game now do 2 times the amount of damage to Link. And this really adds to the difficulty in the quest. And just imagine, like one of those iron knuckles in the Spirit Temple. They took 4 full hearts of damage in the regular quest, so that means 8 full hearts of damage from one hit from an iron knuckle. And me having played the game, I just played through the Great Deku Tree on the Master Quest, the 3DS version, and I died by hitting a gold Skulltula because the gold Skulltulas take 2 full hearts of damage, and you only have 3 hearts in the whole level. So to me, this is just icing on the cake for the hardcore Zelda fan. So, Josh, what are your thoughts on the mirrored version of the Master Quest and now the double damage?
As for the flip view, I feel like this is gonna be what I experienced with Twilight Princess all over again. When I originally bought it, I only had a GameCube and had no intention of buying a Wii at all, so naturally I got the GameCube version. I played it and completed it many times before buying a Wii, and eventually the Wii version of Twilight Princess. When I first started playing it, I was incredibly confused and kept going the opposite way of the way I needed to go. To this day, I still have a problem with remembering how to get to Link's house from Ordon Spring, or on what sides Lake Hylia and Death Mountain are on. I think for many of the people who've played Ocarina of Time countless times, they're going to be confused by this, at least for the first playthrough, because it really is such a change. You have to try and train your brain to think in the opposite way, and this really should add more difficulty to an already hard game. As for the double damage, I can't see any way this isn't a great addition. People are always talking about how they want more difficulty in Zelda games, and this is the perfect way to do it. Double the damage you receive on every enemy you face, and the game becomes almost impossible to complete. I remember reading that post that you made on Facebook about how you died from that Skulltula, and it just amazed me. I've never died from a Skulltula, but 2 hearts of damage, that's 2/3 of what I have. In this game, you really have to be constantly watching and defending yourself, or you're gonna have a really hard time making it through.
Yeah, for me, it was like you're always on the edge. Sometimes when you're playing a Zelda game, and you get that annoying beeping noise when you have one or two or three hearts or whatever. You sort of play a lot more conservatively then. Like, oh, I don't want to go in. Like, you take your time because you don't want to die. Well, when I was playing the Great Deku Tree, you only have three hearts, and even most of the early part of the game, you're always like that. Like I said, I had two full hearts, and my health wasn't even blinking. That noise wasn't even coming, and I just died. So it's really difficult. It's really gonna get people playing a lot differently. And the mirrored quest, just to add to that, I felt so disoriented. I tried to train my mind when I was running through like the Kokiri Forest. I found that I was just running through the game as if it was brand new because I was just so disoriented. I was so familiar with the Nintendo 64 version that this was just like, what is going on here? But so the Master Quest is not the only new addition. There's plenty of additions, and another one of these is the boss challenge mode. Basically, at any point in the game, Link can return to his treehouse in Kokiri Forest and he can go to sleep. While sleeping, there's an option to relive boss battles in which you can face off with the dungeon bosses. And each time it records how many times you defeated this particular boss along with the time it took you. It shows your best completion time for each boss. In addition to that, once you've beaten the entire game, you can run through the boss Gauntlet, taking on every single boss in order without any recovery time in between battles. Furthermore, the same feature is available in the Master Quest version with the double damage. So Josh, is this another gift to the hardcore Zelda fan that will add more replay value to the game?
Yeah, Nintendo seems to be doing this sort of thing a lot lately, and I'm really happy for it. Whether, it's in a Mario game with events like the Pit of 100 Trials, or in Zelda with the Savage Labyrinth and the Cave of Ordeals, these have all been great ways to test how good you are at defeating other enemies. One of the things that's always disappointed me about Zelda games is I only ever had one chance to see how well I could defeat a boss, and I always wanted to challenge myself a little more. With this, though, I can now do that, hopefully getting better each time. I like, too, that they did include it in the Master Quest. I think getting hit more than once in most of those boss battles would kill you almost instantly. You almost have to do a perfect run-through to beat them all. It's a great way to challenge anyone and keeps the fun of the game going much longer.
Yeah, I definitely foresee people like posting, "What's your best time?" Like beating King Dodongo in the Master Quest version, and I think there's probably going to be people who, after doing like a three heart challenge, try to do the entire boss gauntlet on the Master Quest with three heart. Like, there's going to be crazy like self your own missions you can basically do, your own goals, and it's really going to add to the replay value. One of the other things that the 3D version of Ocarina of Time adds is a lot of things that make the game easier a little bit. One of them is the brand new control system, and it's been dramatically upgraded. And I think this is more about eliminating the annoyance as opposed to making the game easier. You pretty much never need to pause the game at all this time around. In particular, the iron boots, the hover boots, they're now all equipable items, meaning putting on the iron boots is just as easy as pulling out the slingshot or something. one press of the button or tap of the touchscreen, and the boots are on. It's basically just like it was in Twilight Princess with the iron boots, where you can just, you just tapped whatever button it was assigned to, and the boots are on. So you can. Another thing is you can now have four items. There's four item slots as opposed to three in Ocarina of Time, and there really is actually five item slots though, because your own ocarina instrument has its own slot. So one thing that fans I think are somewhat concerned are they don't want too much change with Ocarina of Time. But and they sort of follow the notion of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So Josh, do you think the control scheme in Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo 64, and in particular the iron boots in the water temple, do you think this was broken, and did you think these changes were needed? What are your thoughts on the new control scheme for Ocarina of Time, the inventory basically?
If the entire control scheme wasn't broken, then the Iron Boot system certainly was. I absolutely hated the Water Temple, if and only if it was because of going to the start screen, finding the Iron Boots, equipping them, using them for about 10 seconds, going back to the start screen, switching them to regular boots, and then going back to the main screen. A, what, half a minute process for 10 seconds of use? They definitely needed to fix that, and from what I can see, they have. To be able to equip and unequip them almost instantaneously, I can't wait to make use of it. The control scheme in general could have definitely used some work as well. Through the years, they've gotten increasingly better at it, allowing you to equip more items at one time, and also dividing it into two separate screens like Twilight Princess cuts down greatly on the time wasted. Here they allow you to equip 5 items at a time along with the ocarina, which I really think will bring about that uninterrupted gameplay we really desire.
Definitely. Having played the game, I can completely agree that it plays very fluid. There is no pause time necessary. You don't your iron boots are right there. You have so many items available. It's perfect. This is one of the great additions. So any people that were concerned, oh, they're changing the inventory, no worries. It's much improved. It's going to be another one of those things where it's going to be hard to go back to the older version to have after having played this version. We talked a lot about the water temple though, and the water temple has been made slightly easier. There are 3 spots in the water temple where you can raise or lower the water level, and sometimes you have to travel through several rooms just to get to these sections. Since the water temple is such a maze, fans oftentimes got lost during their quest. This time around, however, there are these colored lines that surround the various doors, and that these lines lead you to the 3 locations where you can raise or lower the water level. And at times that these sort of look like colored pipes along the walls, guiding you towards the specific locations where you can change the water level. And it sort of reminds me of the Great Bay Temple with the little pipes along the walls and such. But Josh, I want to get your thoughts on this. Is this a nice new addition to simplify the annoyance of the water temple, or are they really just dumbing it down for a younger, the newer, the more casual generation?
This is one of the very few things that I'm not a great fan of. I can't see any reason at all other than for new players who haven't played through the dungeon before to help find these important rooms that they constantly need to go back to change the water level. Even at that, you do go back to change the water levels so many times. I can't imagine anyone not memorizing where they are by the time they play through the dungeon. Sure, it might make it a little bit easier for those of us who are forgetful, but other than that, I'm not really a fan of it.
Yeah, it definitely cuts the memorization down because all you're just gonna find out. Oh, that's the color. I follow that door. It's okay. It doesn't hurt the experience at all. It'll only help it for the newer gamers. One of the other new features is the visions mode. These are short 5-10 second video clips that will help you when you are stuck in the game. They don't explicitly tell you what you have to do, but they do guide you and they pretty much show you what you need to do. One of the examples is the entrance to like the bottom of the well. I know in order to enter the bottom of the well, you have to learn the Song of Storms, and basically how the visions work, it'll show Link learning the Song of Storms, then it'll show him placing the Master Sword in the pedestal of time, meaning you have to go back in time, then it'll show him playing the Song of Storms, and then shows him entering the bottom of the well. So basically, it's 4 little clips, each of them being 1, 2, 3 seconds long, into a full 10-second clip that helps you with where you have to go. And a few things, they don't become available until after you've actually tried it yourself. For example, there's a tip that helps you in a boss battle with King Dodongo. That tip won't become accessible until after you've tried to fight King Dodongo yourself and had failed at it. So Josh, do you think these are good additions? Again, is it just making it easier for the newer generation? Should they have been included at all? What are your thoughts?
As I've said a little bit before, Nintendo does seem to be treating the more experienced players to a better experience. And at the same time, they also seem to be catering to the less experienced by helping them along the game if they ever need a little nudge in the right direction. When I first saw a similar mode in Super Mario Galaxy 2, I was quite skeptical as this showed you the entire way through the level and barely stopped short of just doing the level for you. I think they learned this really wasn't the way to go. And with the Visions mode, they simply show you little clips of how to progress, but leave out important details, like where the items are or how to use them. I think it's the perfect way to give somebody some hints, but not flat out tell them what to do. It's a great addition to the game, and definitely should have been added to help the new players out.
Right, and just a few things to add to that. I want to note that the Visions mode is not available in the Master Quest version. So if you are stuck in a dungeon in the Master Quest version, well, tough luck. You got to figure it out yourself. And there's also Visions for finding some of the optional items, such as some of the magic upgrades and such. And those become available once you reach those areas in the game. So I think that's about gonna wrap it up. So the bottom line, Josh, will you be getting the game at launch, and how hyped are you about it?
You know, when I first heard about this game and that it was coming on the 3DS, I wasn't very excited for it. I didn't really think much about it, as I still had my old GameCube version to play it on. But now seeing the new graphics, the 3D, the boss challenge mode, all that they've done to the Master Quest, I know they really did their best to try and improve this game from what it was, and that makes me really excited for it. I'll definitely be getting this game on the day it comes out, and will play straight through it until I complete everything included in it.
Okay, well, thanks for being with me here, Josh. You are the first member of Masis's Hot Seat, and I guess you are off the hot seat. Alright guys, so I'll see you guys next time, and again, please send in the comments ideas for what you want Masis's Hot Seat to be titled, since I think we need a new name. We need a new name. Okay guys, I'll see you guys next month.